Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's What's Up Wednesday, where we are going live with you on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about our upcoming 21st Annual International Human Trafficking and Social Justice Conference that is going to be hosted virtually on September 18th through the 20th of this year. We are just 2 months away. Very exciting, coming up quickly. So, welcome, everyone. My name is Anna Schramm. I work at the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo as their conference planner. And today we have a special guest with us. Marissa Kokoros is the founding director of Aura Freedom, which is based in Toronto, Canada. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the anti-trafficking field, and we are so excited that she's joining us today. So, hi, Marissa. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Anna. Thanks so much for having me. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Awesome. So today we are going to be focusing on our direct service type of presentations at the conference. So last week, in our first week, I mentioned that we are a very diverse conference with a lot of different topics that we talk about, a lot of topics to choose from. So one of those being our direct service type of presentation, the work that these professionals do in the anti-trafficking and social justice field. So before we get too much into that, Marissa, do you just want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks again for having me. Well, I'm the executive director here at Aura Freedom, which is a small grassroots feminist organization based in Toronto, Canada, working to eradicate all forms of violence against women and human trafficking, of course. We do this through really a variety of different activities, from advocacy and policy development to public education and awareness, training and capacity building programs for service providers, which is a lot of what we do in the human trafficking space, and consulting with different levels of government, events, and of course, survivor support. I myself have over 10 years of experience working with survivors of human trafficking, sex trafficking, as well as intimate partner violence and child marriage. I have both Canadian and international experience doing field work, implementing, I would say, creative, women led, and survivor informed projects that all have the same goal and North Star, which is to see the eradication of all forms of violence against women and girls. So our work predominantly is based in Canada, but we have some projects, smaller projects, and I have done work in South Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and in Europe as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marissa. Yeah, you do have a great wealth of knowledge and a great reach too. And lucky to have you as a part of our conference. So, for people who might not be as familiar with what direct service is, can you talk about who those professionals are, like what they typically do, and the importance of direct service and effective programming in the anti trafficking and social justice field?
Yeah. Direct service is frontline support for survivors. And I would also say support and training for other service providers. So I would put those together. So these are your trauma counselors, your crisis line operators, your emergency room nurses, public health care professionals, your child welfare workers, your school and youth counselors, your workshop facilitators, your educators, police. So many diverse, really and valuable community members would fall under the umbrella of direct service work. And the work you know, is so vast. It's reading the signs and noticing the signs. It's receiving a disclosure of human trafficking. It's safety planning, high level safety planning. It's providing trauma support. It's providing case management, finding housing, writing an advocacy letter so someone can get on a special housing program. Sometimes it's booking a hotel room in the middle of the night so someone can get to safety. It's providing basic care, so food cards, Uber rides, or taxis to sexual health clinics. It's providing education and training and capacity building for other frontline workers. It encompasses a lot of things. And in my opinion, direct service work is sacred. It's transformative. When it's trauma informed and survivor informed, it can really prevent re-exploitation, disrupt cycles of intergenerational trafficking, and supporting other service providers, which is what we do a lot at Aura Freedom as well, as I mentioned, with training and support, is a way to fill the cups of those working with survivors to ensure that they're healthy too. But I will say, Anna, that the most effective frontline workers that I know are the ones that recognize that the focus of anti-trafficking work shouldn't be on the front line at all. It should be on prevention and eradication, so looking way upstream. We know, and of course you know, that human trafficking is a manifestation of inequity. It thrives in situations of unequal power balance. And therefore, when we work to advance equity and advance human rights and all those upstream things that we do quietly and without any glory, we are actually working to end human trafficking. So if we're only focusing on the front line, which is very important and must be robustly funded, but if we're only focusing of pulling people out of the river, we're never going to end human trafficking. So where we need to go and where our focus also needs to be is upstream, is addressing patriarchy, colonialism, white supremacy and racism, homophobia, xenophobia. These are the drivers of human trafficking, really, and the focus of a lot of Aura Freedom's work. So, if we don't do that, we're just going to see one young person leave a safe house and another one show up the next day. So we need to stop the revolving door.
Yeah, that is so beautifully said, and hit a lot of important points. And I love the analogy of, the pulling people out of the river and having to go upstream.
That's not mine.
Figure out why they're going in the river. Like, why are they even being put in the river in the first place?
Yeah. Desmond Tutu said that. It's not my quote, and I quote him very often, and it's the basis of a lot of our work. But yes, it just makes sense, right?
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And it's also like direct service is so important, but there's so many aspects of that too. And we all like working together because, in the front line and in prevention. And so yeah, beautifully said. And so you've been involved with the conference for several years now as either an attendee or a presenter. So just want to hear a little bit about your experience and why you keep coming back to this conference year after year.
Yeah. I believe Celia Williamson and I first connected in 2020. So I was a guest on her podcast, and we were talking about our peer prevention project, which won the Mayor's Community Safety Award from the City of Toronto here. From there, we presented at the conference in 2022 on our Human Trafficking Info Hub, which we had just published at the time. And then in 2023, so last year, we had a session on just what I just spoke about, our upstream preventative approach to ending sex trafficking. And then in both those years, 2022 and 2023, I believe, our team member Tashin Rodoshi, she facilitated different high school presentations that happen parallel to the conference, right, Anna? Like and they engaged thousands of students from across the US, which was cool for us as Canadians. And we have a similar domestic sex trafficking context. Labor trafficking is slightly different, but we have a lot of similarities with sex trafficking. So and I guess this is I'm presenting again this year. So we have a long history. And I keep coming back because of the richness of the conference, the vast diversity. There are some topics that you wouldn't normally see in a human trafficking conference, ones that make you wonder and make you question the way you've been doing things for a long time, and really make you uncomfortable, which I like, right? And not everyone is on the same page at the conference, and there's so many different points of view and brilliance. And I think it's wonderful to see. And then I also have to say that this conference is run like a well-oiled machine. So and that's, thanks to you and everyone that you work with and the whole team, of course. So for a grassroots organization like Aura Freedom, it's easy for us to participate because there's not a lot of time we need to dedicate to email correspondence, trying to confirm information. We just focus, we show up. It's really, that's all we do. Of course, we plan on our end, our sessions, and make sure
Right.
they're wonderful. But yeah, so.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that as, the organizer, that it's easy for, our presenters, our attendees to
Mhm.
access the conference and be a part of it. And yeah, I love that you've been able to keep coming back and presenting. And like you mentioned, you are presenting again this year. Your session is titled Invisible Chains, Understanding Coercive Control and Its Effects on Survivors of Sex Trafficking. And I know you're going to be covering a lot of great information in your session, and we don't want to give too much away now, but give the listeners like a brief overview of what you're going to be presenting on this year.
Sure. Coercive control is a cornerstone of sex trafficking, and it strategically, entraps survivors in that cycle of abuse and keeps them under the trafficker's power, even though the door is wide open for them to leave. So that's those invisible chains. Understanding coercive control, I would say, and its impacts on survivors is key to understanding the nuances of sex trafficking in particular and supporting survivors in a transformative way, especially sex trafficking that happens through an intimate partner relationship. So I would suggest that those who are not familiar with coercive control and are supporting survivors of sex trafficking get the information before you go any deeper with survivors. So I guess pulling from my own experience supporting survivors as well as from our organization's work or Freedom's work and the curricula that we've developed, I'll examine the different forms of coercive control, what it looks like in real life, and the different tactics used to, again, create that web, weave that web, and create those invisible strings, and how they affect survivors when they're accessing your services.
Hmm.
So I also will examine the criminalization of survivors as a form of coercive control. So this is when traffickers coerce and force the person that they're trafficking to commit crimes. And this is a way as well to keep them under their control. And it's not spoken about a lot in the anti-trafficking movement. So I will examine criminalization and a non-punishment principle approach, which is sometimes controversial, but I believe it's so important when supporting survivors to understand that they've been criminalized on purpose. So I guess at the end of the session, I hope, we can have attendees ask, instead of asking, why don't they just leave? Why doesn't she just leave? Why doesn't this person just leave? Instead of that, they'll be flipping the script and asking what barriers is this person facing? What forms of coercive control are keeping them under the trafficker's power? So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little bit
Wow.
about the session.
I love that. That sounds like it's going to be an amazing session with a lot of good information. So, if you are listening, are interested in hearing more about Marissa's presentation, I encourage you to register for the conference on our website. Sorry, I had to get the correct link up there, but so it's trafficking.com/register. Make sure you're registered so you can attend and hear what Marissa has to say. I also do want to highlight a couple of the other direct service presentations that are going to happen at the conference this year. We do have over 100 breakout presentations at the conference. So you have a
Wow.
lot to choose from. So I'm just going to be listing a couple right now. But I know that's a lot of sessions. It can be overwhelming, but all of the sessions are recorded. So if you have registered for the conference, you have access to watch all of the sessions on demand for up to 3 weeks afterwards. So if you miss one or have something come up or there's a couple during the same time, go back, watch them. We want you to have access to all of this great information. So some of the ones that I want to mention are Dr. Jared Rose is going to be presenting on Don't Tell Them, Show Them, Identifying and Implementing Effective Advocacy and Social Justice. Dr. Heather Evans and Alicia Boehm will be talking about wounds from the work, understanding and responding to vicarious trauma in the caregiver. Then Rachel Ewing will be discussing survivors deserve quality therapy treatment, utilizing a progressive approach to inform EMDR with survivors of the commercial sex trade. Then we have Dr. Carrie McGuire. She's going to be presenting on leaning into discomfort, a relational approach to working with young victims of human trafficking. And then Katie Papke is going to be talking about advanced mental health trauma therapy for clinical professionals. So these are going to be great sessions. We also have many other sessions that are related to direct service work. If this is something that you're interested in learning more about, or you're already working in it and you want to learn more tools. So check out our full schedule on our website, which is traffickingconference.com/schedule. We have that all up now, so you can go on and click through and see all of the sessions that we have to offer. So Marissa, is there anything else that you would like to add today before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity again. This is great, and I hope folks join our session to learn a little bit more about coercive control. Whether you are working downstream with survivors or whether you're doing prevention work as well, I think it's super important to understand, and that if you're coming to our session, I guess you'll find out right away that it's also a form of activism. And I think when we do this work, any social justice work, and especially anti-human trafficking work, it is a form of activism in itself. So yeah,
Agreed.
thanks
I
for
think
having
it's
me.
important for everybody. So thank you again for joining us today on our What's Up Wednesday. As mentioned, we go live on Facebook and LinkedIn every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about our upcoming conference. Next week, I will have a special guest, Dr. Heather Sloan Cleary, on with me to talk about our art-related presentations and how art is used in the social justice and anti-trafficking movement. So we look forward to seeing you back here next week. If you want to learn more about our conference, go to our website, traffickingconference.com. We look forward to having you join us at the conference. Thank you for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you back here next week. So bye, everyone.
Bye.